have with me, thank you, Roy. I also have with me Pete and James and David from Step 13. Welcome, guys, to the program.
Hello.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. Can you tell us a little bit about what, just basically, what Step 13 is? Any one of you, go for it.
Step 13 is kind of like a transitional living program. It takes alcoholics and drug addicts and gives them a chance to get back into the workforce, live clean and sober, and just kind of find out what living clean and sober is all about, making it on their own.
Okay, so both actually Salvation Army, the shelter, well, it's a little bit, they're different, but the fact is when people are out drinking on a night like this, there are places that they can get to, and you guys are down there to help deal with this.
Yes.
And
That's true.
okay, now the fact of the matter is all 4 of my guests have been on the street, are recovering alcoholics, and let's put it this way, they are not bureaucrats. Okay,
No.
we do not, no.
No, of course not. That's for sure.
And nothing against bureaucrats, but I tried to get Governor Romer's task force on the homeless to have a member appear on the program tonight. No way. Much too complicated, very too busy. We also called the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless to ask them if they could at least have a member maybe come and talk a little bit about this, you know, the situation with being very, very cold and also having the deal with alcoholics on the street. Well, they were much too busy because they were at an opening, kind of a cocktail party, I guess.
I see.
But I don't know. I sort of have this attitude here on Addiction Free Radio, but I'm really glad I have you guys because it's more important to have the real item here.
The bureaucrat, I understand.
Well, the people who have really been through it, because you speak to the issue, and I know that at Step 13 and at the Salvation Army, that you guys are dealing with people who are drinking themselves to death and freezing themselves to death tonight.
Yeah, and you know, the funny thing about it is that, you know, you look out the window at Step 13, we're right on Skid Row on Larimer Street in Denver. And these guys walk by, and you can tell they're freezing to death. You can tell they haven't taken a shower in who knows how long. They haven't eaten. And they see Step 13 there, and they see their chance, and they walk right on by.
Mm.
Right on by Step 13, right on down to the liquor store. And they're powerless over their addiction to alcohol.
Mm. And like the important thing one wants to remember about alcoholism and the homeless is that once a person is given a choice, or not necessarily their personal choice, once they're placed in a position by the authorities and or themselves to make some sort of decision to change their lives, only they personally can change their lives. And alcoholism is very baffling, the entire process of alcoholism. And when you do see people walking through a snowstorm and choosing alcohol over roofs over their head and some sort of sobriety, then you really realize how their lives are controlled by alcohol, how their entire lifestyle is controlled by alcohol. And
So, you guys, were you talking to any people today? I mean, down at Step 13, I mean, did you actually see people today walking through the cold, making choices,
Oh, yes.
alcohol over shelter?
oh yes,
Every day.
Every day.
Every day. Yeah.
I mean, but it's cold out there tonight,
Sure,
man.
you're
This
talking-
isn't fooling around.
No, you're talking minus 20 degrees below, of course, and like David said, we're right there at near the corner of 20th and Larimer, which is considered Denver's Skid Row. And we're right in the war zone, and we see this right outside our window. Everything negative in the world does happen, and then we have all the alcoholics, drug addicts, etc. And they walked right by the building until they're ready to make the choice. Then they're going to keep walking by. So.
Roy.
Yeah, Jan.
Yeah, tell us about the situation at Blake Street and what you see. Like, I mean, what have you seen today? Because you're down there too. You're just down the road from Step 13 a little bit.
Yeah, right. Well, Blake Shelter over at, of course, 2440 Blake. I think you were over there this afternoon or earlier.
Right.
I am the administrative supervisor that also, with Mr. Charles Holm as the supervisor in residence. We, tonight, we'll probably have 222 people in there, which is every night. That's how many beds we have with the overflow beds. During this cold spell, we're staying open 24 hours a day.
Well, thank God for that. I was wondering if the shelters were, any places were staying open.
We haven't closed since the cold hit, and we will be remaining open until it's over. and thank God for the staff that we have over there. Let me tell you what we do there at the shelter. Mr. Holmes and the other staff members make it known about Safe Harbor to all the people that are in there. They're given the choice, especially those who are known to have a drink and or an alcohol problem. And he will invite them to come over and see me, or I will go over there several times a week and talk to the guys. I also have a counselor, Mac McCarthy, who goes into the shelter every morning and talks to the guys, that actually takes them on a tour, those who choose to go, and there's several every day, over to our Adult Rehabilitation Center, which deals strictly with people with alcohol problems. Those that accept our invitation to go into the program there will undergo a 90-day live-in program. When they finish that program, then they graduate over to me at Safe Harbor, and eventually, within the next couple of months or so, we'll have them back into full-time employment and really back in society with a grasp on what their problem was. They're educated about their problem and are able to make it again.
Well, Roy, now, I want to talk about the guy that passes the shelter by because he wants to drink, or he'll pass by the Adult Rehabilitation Center, or he'll pass by Step 13, or he'll pass by Alcoholics Anonymous because alcohol is dragging him around on the street. Are you seeing that? I mean, today, I know you see it every day, but on a cold day, you'd think a guy would have enough sense to come in out of the cold.
Yeah, I know, Jen, but let me tell you what we're doing. Right now, I have a vehicle out patrolling all the streets in downtown, and Larimer Street, Blake, Market, all those areas. I have my search and rescue vehicle out right now with Ron Goodwin driving and some volunteers. We'll be looking into doorways, we'll be looking under loading docks, abandoned buildings, or guys like night before last, right on Larimer near Step 13, there was a guy leaning against the wall, passed out cold, still had his bottle in his hand. We picked him up, got him to the shelter, got him sobered up, and hopefully he will go into our adult program also. We go out every single night that the temperature is 25 or colder, looking for guys that have passed out on the street, that are incapable of taking care of themselves, that are disorientated because of the cold.
You know,
invite them into the shelter, and then we talk to them about their drinking problem and how can we possibly help them. And I know, because I lived on the streets of L.A. myself as a derelict for 8 years. Thank God somebody approached me one time and said there's a better way.
I hear that. You're talking about me. In February 8th, 1975, I had some people from a church come by when I was in Central Park in Boulder, and it was snowing on me. There was about 2 inches of snow. I was passed out, and they happened to take me to a place where I could get some help and begin sobriety.
Oh, good.
Whew! We'll be back here on Addiction Free Radio.
Addiction Free Radio. You can talk with Jan in just a moment at area code 303-457-9952. If you're calling long distance, let the phone ring. We'll answer just as soon as we can put you on the air. Addiction Free Radio is the only regularly scheduled talk show on the globe that we know of, broadcasting information for those suffering from an addiction. Jan will be back to answer your questions in just a moment. We are now taking phone calls at area code 303-457-9952. Jan will be back in just 2 minutes.
Does someone you know or someone you love have a drug or alcohol problem? Bowling Green of Colorado can help.
Alcoholism really is a disease. That means the person who has it didn't cause himself to get it by drinking too much. In fact, it's just the opposite. He drinks too much because he has the disease. And asking him to just drink a little less or control his drinking is asking too much. You see, alcoholism is a disease like any other disease. You can't use willpower to control it or cure it by trying harder. And promising to get well is like promising not to have cancer. The person who has alcoholism needs treatment. But the good news is that with treatment and abstinence, the alcoholic can recover.
You don't have to want help to get help. Call Bowling Green of Colorado. 333-5540. 333-5540.
You're with Jann Scott this evening here on Addiction Free Radio. It's not a 5 o'clock world for some people. Some people are out there every night drinking and completely lost to the world. My guests this evening are Pete, James, and David from Step 13, a transitional living program, a hand up, not a hand out, right down in Larimer. Also, Roy with the, it's actually Roy Chappelle, yes?
That's correct.
Program Director, Salvation Army for the Safe Harbor and for the Blake Street House, which is one of the main shelters in down in Denver. Well, so where we left here is we left people, guys on the street, and maybe, you know, Pete, I'd like to ask you just a little bit about your story, and I know you spent some time on the street, right? Did you spend nights out like this in the cold?
Yes, sir. I spent a few of them in dumpsters, in cardboard boxes, over steam grates. I've traveled the country. I figured my addiction, if I went from one place to another, that would take care of my problem.
Did you ride freight trains?
Oh yeah.
In the middle of the winter?
I was born in a railroad town, yes sir.
Oh man, how could you ride in that? How could you ride in that box? Roy, did you ride in a boxcar in the middle of the winter time?
No, I didn't.
Wait, I would ask Pete this. How could you ride in a
Travel
boxcar?
by air,
in the
air
middle
you
of-
go in my way.
How could you ride in a boxcar in the middle of winter? You got to talk right into that microphone.
I'll tell you what, a bottle of wine and a stolen blanket will get you a long, long way if you really want to.
Wow.
No doubt in my mind.
Cold weather.
Mm-hmm.
Are you seeing guys now yourself today out there? I mean, especially during this in the cold snap. And how do you talk to somebody who doesn't want to come in out of the cold?
Well, that's the important thing about what we realize after we become sober and sort of re-socialize is that it's impossible, almost virtually impossible, to talk to someone who's practicing their disease while they're practicing their disease. You cannot talk to anyone who's drunk or practicing that disease. So one has to become sober before one can deal with the reality of things as they are.
Now, how long have you been sober, James?
I've been sober now for about 6 months, sir.
6 months.
Yes, sir.
So that's pretty good.
Thank you.
And were you living outside too?
Well, I was basically I was in the Capitol Hill area, going from one friend's house to another, and shelter to shelter, doing what they call the shelter circuit. So it was pretty tragic. It's been a real change for myself. So.
You guys all look like gentlemen. I mean, I have to tell you, Pete here looks like he should be an executive at IBM. He's got the, and I've met Roy before. You know, he's a good-looking gentleman. It's completely different. I mean, I guess what I need to tell our listeners, and I need to tell those of you who are listening, is that my guests are not your average, high-bottom drunks. We're talking about people who lived and drank in this kind of weather and survived it, and are out here tonight on a very cold night to talk with you and with us about alcoholism on the street and street alcoholics and the difference. I want to know, and Roy, maybe I'll put this to you, and then we can go to David and James and Pete. What's the difference between the homeless and a street alcoholic? I'll shoot that to you, Roy.
All right, there's many reasons to be homeless, of course. We've increased our homeless situation here in Denver recently, but due to a couple of the low-rent apartments and lower-price hotels down where the new convention center is being built. An awful lot of those lower SROs, single-room occupancies as we call it, have been torn down for such things as convention centers, parking lots. That's put people on the street. The Vietnam people, of course, are on the streets now. People that come here due to a false unemployment rate that we have find themselves homeless, if you will. Various factors make people homeless. I also have a shelter for families in my building there on Champa. I've got 8 families up there right now that we will be getting back into society with good things, housing and all that. Your street alcoholic has chosen that as a lifestyle. It's much easier to stay drunk, as we all know, than it is to get sober. there's that 10, 13, 15% of what we call the homeless, the street people, who choose that as a lifestyle, their independence, if you will. They don't care for the charity. They don't care to stay in the shelters. That precludes their drinking and whatever. They are, well, if you will, professional street people, and Denver feeds awfully well. I think there's 11 of us that feed. I have a feeding program in my building every morning where I feed 300 to 400 people, plenty of hot soup, coffee, and all that. And my soup truck is down at Blake Street, or just finished up down there right now. We feed another 200 to 300 people down there at night with lots of good warm stuff. But the alcoholic, that's a lifestyle. We might do a little day labor here and there, enough to get us a 40 water for the night and a bottle of vodka, and right back to the day labor the next day until we get so sick we just can't do it anymore. But we choose it as a lifestyle. Very seldom are we going to do anything permanent whatsoever. Our disease is...
Well, do we choose it, or does the alcohol choose it?
The alcohol itself chooses it.
I mean, I tell you, there's no way.
But inside, and we'd like to get sober. We don't know how. No one has approached us on the street and says, "Brother, there is a better way." When I fell, finally, just really hit bottom. I was living in an abandoned truck in a junkyard in Wilmington, California. It was February the 22nd. I was about froze to death.
Wilmington, California. That must be Northern California, yeah?
Oh, Wilmington is outskirts of Long Beach, Los Angeles area. And, oh, believe me, someone took me to the detox unit the paramedics did, at the detox unit at the Long Beach Naval Hospital. When I was there, when I was sobering up enough, somebody came to me and said, "Would you like to try an alcohol treatment program?" I said, "I'll try anything at this point." Thank God somebody came to me, like the gentleman said a while ago, you can't talk to a drunk. He knows it all. He knows all the answers, and he doesn't want to be talked to. He doesn't want to be bothered, and he's into denial of the disease anyhow. But people like myself that visit the detoxes, that visit the hospitals and places like that, when a person is coming off of a bad one, if we can get to them in Christian fellowship and care and let them know that we actually love them and want them to do better, we can pull them in.
Penetrates a little bit, huh?
Right.
We're going to take another break here. When we come back, I'm going to pose the same question to Pete and James and David from Step 13. Also have a guest, Roy, from the Salvation Army. We're talking about being alcoholic, being on the streets on a night like tonight. Right here on Addiction Free Radio, you're with Jann Scott. The phone number is area code 303-457-9951. That's 303-457-9951.
Addiction Free Radio. Jann will be back in just a moment. Addiction Free Radio is the only program on the globe that we know of broadcasting information about addiction. Take that important first step for your own well-being and participate in tonight's show. It's absolutely free. Jann will be back with the phone number in just a moment.
Does someone you know or someone you love have a drug or alcohol problem? Bowling Green of Colorado can help.
Alcoholism affects more than just the person who has the disease. It affects the whole family. There's confusion and anger, misunderstandings and hurts. Often the family has stopped communicating. The closeness that once existed has disappeared. We understand. That's why we provide treatment for everyone close to the alcoholic. Husbands, wives, children, mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, everyone joins together for treatment. And the results are wonderful. Families learn to trust again. Soon they're working together, helping each other. There's lots of hugging, even laughter. And it all starts with love.
You don't have to want help to get help. Call Bowling Green of Colorado. 333-5540. 333-5540.
Sounds of the city pounding in my brain while another day goes down the drain. But in the 5 o'clock world when the whistle blows, someone owns a piece of my time. And there's a 5 o'clock for me inside my clothes, thinking that the world looks fine.
Okay, we're back here on Addiction Free Radio. My guests are Pete, James, and David from Step 13. Right down, where is Step 13?
It's down at 2029 Larimer Street in downtown Denver, sir.
in the Skid Row.
I'm very much
Yeah,
invited
this-
to Mr. Skid
This is
Row.
not the uptown part of
No, it's not
of
Greenwood
Larimer.
Village, that's for sure.
It's the downtown part.
Yes, sir.
All right, then we also have Roy with us. We'll get him back here in a second. We're trying to get him on the right line. From the Salvation Army, which is also in the downtown part. No, yeah, the downtown part, not the uptown part. Well, so Pete, I want to go back to you and running into guys on the street in cold nights like this. I don't know. I mean, what do you say?
There's been them fellas they'll come in and out every once in a while to go to the bathroom or something like that down step 13, and I'll ask them, well, why don't you please, get involved in this program? And most of them, as this man said, by choice. It is just the alcohol. They don't want nothing to do with the system or nothing. You have to hit your own personal low to, what can I say? That's it. You have to hit your own personal low to do it. Unfortunately, I hit mine.
How long have you been sober now?
Going on 9 months now. I feel terrific.
Yeah, you look great. And you were how long? You were a hobo for how long?
Oh, I'd say about 20 years or so.
20 years. Geez. What are you doing now? Are you working at all, or do you work at Step 13, or?
No, I work for. I got a job through Osage Company.
Osage.
The one that handles the rehabilitation people, and I fortunately got a job through Step 13 with them. And but before that, no, like I said, I lived back east. I've had $20 an hour jobs. I drank myself out of a $20 an hour job. Instead of drinking cheap vodka, I drink expensive scotch. But the lower the funds get, you still got to have that something somewhere.
Oh, I know that story. 457-9951 is the talk number here on Addiction Free Radio. If you would like to join this conversation, you are invited. If you have any questions for Pete, James, or David from Step 13, or Roy from the Salvation Army, you are welcome to join this conversation. I want you to know the people that I have as my guests tonight, okay, we're talking about the real ticket, real people. I don't know how I can put this into words. I guess my guests on the program are people who have been through the street, have lived and drank and suffered on the streets and are in recovery now. Okay, are in recovery and are now carrying the message to other people who are on the street. And I don't want to knock the work of people that are do-gooders either, but I think we need to a lot of times go to people who have been down on Skid Row. 457-9951 is the talk number. Roy, are you still there with us, guy?
I'm here.
Oh, good. Okay. What about you, David? When you running into people, what?
Well, I lived under a bridge at Spear and Lincoln for 3 years, right across the street from Channel 7. And I slept out. I think the coldest, I looked up at the thermometer there one night, and it was 10 below. And so I know what it's like to sleep out in the cold with the rats and everything else. But I can understand what Roy was saying about that fiercely independent spirit. Actually, what it is, it's sick pride and denial. Is I don't like those shelters. I don't need their help. I worked every day out of the labor pool for a minimum wage, but like you spend it all on liquor when you get off work. You're broke, you're sick the next day. That's another trap you can get caught into, like that, And I didn't want any help from anybody. If I couldn't do it by myself, I just wanted to stay there under my bridge and do my thing and get drunk. And I didn't want any help.
I was always very concerned about that. I was really, what got to me finally was I was afraid I was going to get brain damaged and be out there forever.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are out there forever.
I know. And the thing that somebody finally, they approached me. They used to come up to me on the street down in the Boulder Mall, and they say, you keep going the way you're going, Jan. One day you're just going to slip on out. It won't really matter to you. Because I would look at myself. I don't know about you. I would look at myself and say, I'm okay. I look good.
Sure.
Yeah.
You're
almost
in a process of personal denial. One has to remember that the dynamics of alcoholism are all, the constructs are denial. You're denying that you have a problem. You're denying that you're slipping and falling to the dredges of society. You're denying that everything that's halfway deals with any sort of resocialization. You are an independent human being fueled by alcohol, and you're your own Superman within your own eyes. That's the problem.
Whew. 457-9951 is the talk number here on Addiction Free Radio. Give us a call if you want to. I know there's been some people trying to get in here. You need to call us on 457-9951 if you have any questions for my guests, Pete, James, David from Step 13, or Roy Chappelle, yes, from the Salvation Army, program director at the shelter down there in Safe Harbor. You know, there's a lot of talk, and we had a program here not too long ago where we talked about the people who are homeless, or homeless women, and homeless families, and lots of kids who are homeless on the street. And I've had some people on the program, and they're saying, well, there are not so many of those, and that's kind of a myth. I wanted to put that up to you, Roy. I mean, is that, you know what I mean? A lot of times you see the news media will be showing all kinds of families on the street.
Right.
And I've had other people tell me, people who've lived on the street say, well, it's just not so. Mostly the people who are on the street are a lot of alcoholic men. You don't see a lot of families on the street. What do you have to say to that?
Well, there's a lot of statistics around. I'll get into families, but we estimate in Denver, I believe, that about 35% of the people on the street are women and children that are homeless, let's put it that way, that have to go to the shelters and whatever, and sometimes there's not enough room in the shelters.
35% of the people who are on the street are women and children?
Of the actual homeless, yes. Now, I have, unfortunately, in my place on Champa there, we only have 8 apartments upstairs for families, and there's always a waiting list, calls from all over the state, looking for places. I had dinner down there tonight before I came on home here with the families and the children. Like I said, I've got the 8 families. Some of them are single-parent families, mostly mothers, but I've got 15 young children down right now.
Let me interrupt you, Roy, okay? Now, if you go down to Blake Street, or if you go down to Larimer Street, not tonight, but let's say an average mild night, you're not going to see women and kids down on that street with all the winos and the alcoholics and the huffers and everything, are you? I mean,
You're not going to see them too visibility, but believe me, some of them are in the 40 water hotels, as we call them, the cheaper hotels and whatever. There are adequate shelters in Denver for women and children.
There are.
There's also this.
Okay.
If any woman's in trouble right now with children, doesn't know what to do, they can't get into shelter, the Denver police will put them up in a motel for a couple of 3 days until we can arrange, to get them into a shelter.
Okay, let's give the Denver police will do that?
Yes,
okay.
they will.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Whew. The difference between, I guess my concern is the alcoholic men that are out there. At least I've been told, and maybe I'll put this to you, James. I've been told by a lot of guys who are on the street that mostly what you see on the street are men who are alcoholic. You don't see a lot of alcoholic women living on the streets. I don't know. Do anybody have any other comments on it? I'll kick it over to anybody that wants to talk to it.
Honestly, I would think that Mr. Chappelle's figure is, I think it's a good base to use. When you talk about 35% of the women that have families that are homeless, I think it's one of the contributing factors to them being homeless has a lot to do with the dynamics of substance abuse and alcoholism.
That is correct.
Okay, these are what you might call the invisible drinkers or the invisible alcoholics. Those that are put in a position to be homeless because of their alcoholism. There's a lot of cause and effect when you deal with women and alcoholism.
Let's do this. Let's go to the telephones. We've got Kristen from Thornton. You're on Addiction Free Radio. Hi.
Hi.
What can we do for you tonight?
Well, I wanted to talk to the man from Salvation Army about the women and children on the street.
Okay. What's your question?
Well, my question is, where are they? I have worked down on Larimer for 5 years, and I also work with the Women's Center in Denver that I opened 2 years ago because of the large numbers that were being quoted from the different places. And I have a capacity of 18, and I've only filled it one time in almost 3 years. So I would like to know where they are.
Okay. How about it, Roy?
Okay, we could also maybe perhaps refer to them also as the hidden homeless. As you know, there are an awful lot of people who will take women and children in, and I'm talking also about single men. We have a lot of people who will make contact with a woman and or even a woman with children, whatever, and invite them in, and out of desperation, it becomes sort of a live-in arrangement, if you will.
Well,
Well,
Kristen,
no, and I
Kristen,
understand.
hold on. I have a question for you. Now, wait a minute. Do you let women and children come in and stay at your shelter there?
Yes.
You do?
Yes, it's,
No cost?
it's mostly single women, but we have let children in also.
No,
yes.
I mean, if a woman comes in with kids,
or we will refer somebody to. We've been in that business for a long time.
how about a husband and wife and kids that are home, that need places?
No, not families.
Okay.
It's
Now,
mostly single women.
okay. Now, the Salvation Army will let entire families in. Is that right, Roy?
Right.
That is correct.
And
For
I've been down there. I know you guys
parents
are
with
packed to
children.
the max. It's very hard to get into that Salvation Army shelter down there. Am I wrong or am I wrong? I'm shooting this to you, Roy. Go ahead.
All right, most of our families have an average stay of about 45 to 60 days. It usually takes this long, if there's a husband involved, to get him into an employment, to get enough money in the bank, to get them a low-cost housing and some guaranteed income.
Specifically is for the women and children, not the families. I understand that, and I also know, I'm very familiar with the support system.
Sure.
I'm asking where these single women and children are. From my experience of working with these people, I see very few, and most of what I do are chronically mentally ill or mental situations for the single women, and so I'd like to know where you see them.
Well,
I've been looking for them for 2.5 years, so.
Well,
being out on the streets every single night, we run into an awful lot of them. Naturally on Laramie, in the bars, they'll catch drinks, and men are, like I said, mentioned before.
Yeah, but I'm talking
But
homeless.
buy them drinks, share their bottles, and then take them home to whatever kind of habitation they have.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
no, that's a good
let's
point.
really how many homeless women do you really see like that?
Yeah, but did you just see what he said? Did you
Homeless,
hear-
the difference between homeless and street people. Homeless are make a difference in the street people.
So
Hey,
you think
no, the point is people become homeless about 90% of the time because they drink or drug themselves onto the street. We have very few people who lose their jobs and end up with families on the street. That's what I say. I may be wrong, but my suspicion is that a lot of people are end up on the street because of alcohol and drugs.
I think that's a good point. I think
yeah.
we're back to cause and effect then. The contributory negligence people have towards becoming homeless and or alcoholics. I would think that one cause leads to the effect of homelessness. You're talking about substance abuse and alcoholism leading to homelessness.
Right.
Kristen, the other thing that Roy said, and I don't know if you heard him, he said that the women who have kids that are on the street end up being picked up by a man, and they move from place to place to place. The reason they're not showing up at your center is I hate to say this, the disease is a little too intense or too.
I understand that, but I want you to understand what I'm saying too. That the beds in Denver for
Yeah.
women and women children are not full in the shelters, and the way I know that is because that we call them on a continuum basis, looking for overflow or whatever, and asking counts.
They're opening a new one tonight.
None of us for women and women and children are full downtown.
What women's center do you run, or are you involved with?
Well, I didn't want to bring up and advertise where I'm working at.
Why not?
Because I just don't think that it's a good thing to plug
I
my
don't think
place.
it's
I'm
bad.
just saying that
I
I'm
think
looking-
you have a point. Okay, you don't have to. That's all right. Now, they opened a new one today. Are you still there, Kristen?
Yeah.
All right. There's a new one open. It's called the Marion Gleason Global House. Is that a new opening?
Yes, that's for mental people. Yes.
Mentally
They-
impaired women.
Yes, right. Mental
Well-
women.
If what you say is true, why are we opening that?
No, that's what I'm saying, that I do believe that the single women on the street are mostly mental illness. And that's what I said.
Okay.
And that's what I'm asking is where are the single women alcoholics?
But if they're not going to go to your women's center, why are they going to go to the Marion Gleason Global House
Well,
if it's easy to get somebody to take care of you for sex or whatever else? You
The
know what I'm
women on
getting
the street, again being mostly mental, that isn't quite the same situation. I think all I'm trying to get to here is honestly the statistics on how many people on the streets are single male alcoholic, which the estimate would be approximately 50%. How many are chronically mentally ill? the alcoholism is the largest reason that people are on the street, but most of them are single, able-bodied men. And
Well,
then you follow into the chronically mentally ill. But as far as single women that are alcoholic, real true street people, there aren't a lot of them down there. And that's all I'm saying, that, you know, there's different groups than what seem to be doing. So what I wonder is, having worked down there and been on Larimer Street and in that area, you know, there aren't that many single women, and it's mostly single able-bodied men.
Good call.
From everything we can find. So
Thanks for your call. That's a good one.
What she said is absolutely true. There has to be a distinction, a differentiation between homeless and straight street people. I'm sure during on the warmer days and whatever, she would just say from 10 o'clock in the morning to all through the afternoon, if she would walk up and down Larimer and around the corners down toward Market Street and whatever, she would see quite a few more people, quite a few more single ladies, if you would.
See, I guess my issue is how do we approach, and I think what the public needs to be very clear on is that alcohol and drugs and glue and puts people on the street. Period. I mean, I know mental illness does too, and I know that low employment does, but somehow maybe the American people have this great yearning for the Depression days, you know, and soup lines and all of that. But I don't know. I mean, go ahead.
Well, the way I feel about it is that what happens if you give an alcoholic a job? He's going to get drunk and he's going to lose it. Before you can give an alcoholic anything, he's got to stop drinking.
He's got to have treatment.
Because you know, I don't know how many jobs I've lost over drinking and drugging. Numerous, believe me. You know.
I'm here to tell you.
And since I've sobered up, I've been sober 15 months. And I've held down a job for a year and a half.
And just getting sober ain't the answer either, you know, because a lot of times
no.
a guy coming off the street, he could even go to AA.
Exactly.
And if you don't have a program and a place to live that can teach you, build up your self-esteem and give you some kind of discipline and some kind of, you know, so that you can get going, because I know...
for your self-esteem and everything, it's in the gutter, you know. It's a whole new way of living. You've got to learn how to do it.
What we think of as unique about Step 13 is, the reason we call it Step 13 is we're involved with Alcoholics Anonymous. We have 3 mandatory meetings a week to build that self-esteem for everyone that's involved with the program. And the reason we call it a transitional living center is it's in the transition from being an alcoholic and or a loser, the transition to being a normal human being and a winner. And being a winner involves, of course, self-esteem, self-employment, and self-sufficiency.
I think this is the point I would really like to make with this, and that is that just to get a guy sober or to go through a 30-day treatment program or even just to go to AA meetings, if you've been an alcoholic on the street, it's not enough. And people want to know, what can we do? What sort of programs do we need? I don't know. I say we need more programs like the Salvation Army's Men's Rehabilitation Program and Step 13, because this is a long-term deal here.
Right.
Roy?
Yes, it is. I watch, television an awful lot like anybody else, and I see these miracle 1 week or 10-day cures with a couple of follow-ups. Yeah. I think the only thing that keeps you sober on those things is the fear of having to spend all that money again. Any successful program, withdrawal and education on alcohol, to me has to be a minimum of 90 days, because it's going to take that long for our system to become alcohol-free. Let me just piggyback on the David James a while ago was talking about denial. We'll deny that we've got a problem unto our grave, the insane asylum, or in jail. The thing that I want anybody listening to this program tonight to understand one thing: you can deny your problem and you think you can handle it yourself. No one is going to get sober and stay sober without support system, whatever it may be. If it may be AA, the Salvation Army, or whatever, you need people that care about you and are there 24 hours a day when you call.
457
going to make it themselves.
9951 is the talk number. 457-9951 here on Addiction Free Radio. If you want to join this conversation, you better jump in now. We got 15 minutes left.
Addiction Free Radio. Jann will be back in just a moment. Addiction Free Radio is the only program on the globe that we know of broadcasting information about addiction. Take that important first step for your own well-being and participate in tonight's show. It's absolutely free. Jan will be back with the phone number in just a moment.
Does someone you know or someone you love have a drug or alcohol problem? Bowling Green of Colorado can help.
Alcoholism really is a disease. That means the person who has it didn't cause himself to get it by drinking too much. In fact, it's just the opposite. He drinks too much because he has the disease. And asking him to just drink a little less or control his drinking is asking too much. You see, alcoholism is a disease like any other disease. You can't use willpower to control it or cure it by trying harder. And promising to get well is like promising not to have cancer. The person who has alcoholism needs treatment. But the good news is that with treatment and abstinence, the alcoholic can recover.
You don't have to want help to get help. Call Bowling Green of Colorado. 333-5540. 333-5540.
This evening, we're talking about being alcoholic and living on the streets of Denver and the difference between being homeless. And the big question is, what in the heck is the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless up to? I don't know. I read this article on the Rocky Mountain News here recently by John Parvensky, and I wonder, does he know what he's doing? I mean, I have to tell you, I'm a very opinionated person. So, you guys, if you're listening, you're going to have to get used to this. What I try to do in this program is set the record straight. You know, and I know everybody's trying, but we got people that know what the heck they're doing. And I'm here to tell you that those who know what they're doing are the people who have been through it. And some of the best ones are the people at Salvation Army and Step 13. Governor Romer's task force on the homeless needs to talk to these people. I wonder, are any of you guys on his task force for the homeless?
Oh, no.
You're not. I mean, I would think, no, let's not have anybody who's been homeless on the task force, or God forbid. Let's go to the phones. We've got Bob Cote, who is the director of Step 13. Hi, Bob. Are you there?
There, but my idea for, I know when we talked earlier about me coming on the program and I had some things to do and I didn't know if I could make it or not, but you just said, ask it, if any of them were on the governor's task force. Well, that's a problem. I think we should put some of the real people on some of these talk shows. And,
now, wait a minute. Now, you're on...
What's really going on. I'm a very strong-minded person, and I'll say this.
Yeah.
Here's the problem in Denver with the homeless that are into an addiction. They don't stop them from using whatever they're into, and mostly it's cheap wine because that's all they can afford when they get down here. But you ask any of those men that are sitting there with you tonight, Jan, there's not one man in this program that has any drug, pot, or anything else in them because I take urine screens, you put them on liquid antabuse, you just can't keep a revolving door of saying, here's a new pair of shoes, go sell it and buy a bottle of Night Train, here's a coat and a jacket, and you go sell it and buy you another bottle, and we're going to give you a bed, and we're going to feed you tonight, pal, and you don't have to do anything about your addiction.
Well, no, okay, and I understand
here in Denver for you guys that want to be a wino. We're not going to stop you.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, it stops when they hit this door,
yeah,
and it ought to stop at every other door. They ought to shut them.
Well, that's a good point, you know, and everybody has the job that they have to do, you know. And in other words, you have a specific program, and when people get ready to get sober, yours is when they hit. We got people. I mean, you know, would you advocate that all the winos and drug addicts don't go to any shelters and they end up
I'll
just
tell you,
freezing to
if
death?
I'm running any shelter and they hit that door, if I know a guy's homeless and he's living in the gutter because he's eating glazed donuts, I'm going to try to take those donuts away from him.
Yeah. Well,
if I don't want him to be homeless,
I think that's
I'm not going to say,
are you on
here,
government?
try these. You don't give him another 2 dozen of something else.
No, you listen. You have a good point there. I want to know: are you on Governor Romer's task force on the homeless?
No, but I've told him just what I've told you, and I'll tell everybody else. They get a little upset about it, but I sit down here every day, and I walk the alleys and the streets and what have you, and there's nothing phony about me. I know why these guys are homeless because they're sucking on a wine bottle in the park all day. So when they hit this door, They either give up the bottle and the pot and the pills and every other thing that they're into and go to work and straighten up their life, or they're not here.
Okay, I have another
Take
question.
the goodies away.
I have another question for you.
Yeah.
The man I have on the phone here is Bob Cote, director of Step 13. Bob, are you involved with the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless?
No, Kathy Ellis, who's executive director here, and myself no longer go to those meetings because, it's just a waste of time. They have their own agenda. They're trying to raise the social consciousness of this whole area down here. Instead of being a coalition, is a group. We should all get together and work together. But they want their own agenda pushed. She gets on me about the urine, about giving a man abuse. Like I said, if you know the guy's out there because he's eating donuts, it's fairly simple. What you got to do, take the donuts away. So I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I figured out why most of these guys are homeless.
Listen, I have another question. Were you invited to the opening for the Marion Gleason Global House today? They had a nice formal...
Oh, come on, Jan. They ain't going to invite me over there because I'll tell it like it is.
Well, why not?
Well, they don't want to hear like it is. It's the same thing with all these figures. They talk about she made a statement, there's 500 women on the streets of Denver. Let me enlighten you, Marianne Gleason. There isn't 500 women on the streets in the whole Southwest.
I want you to know, and I want my listeners to know here. Bob, listen, I want to thank you for your call. We got to go. Okay,
I'm proud of you guys down there. Keep it up.
Okay, thanks.
Ain't nobody else would let 3 of their clients get on there and get on the air.
Thanks.
All right?
God bless you. I want people to know that are listening to the program tonight. I do not have the Junior League in here.
No.
Right? You guys, are you not members of the Junior League, right?
No, I don't think so.
457-9951 is the talk number here on Addiction Free Radio. 457-9951. You got a couple minutes to get your calls in. Roy, are you there?
Sure am.
Talk to me, brother.
Righto. I like what Bob was saying there. There comes a time when you have to quit co-signing, you have to quit enabling these people. You've got to get darn serious with them. Believe me, I'm a tough love counselor. Produce, want to get sober, want to get that wine bottle out of your mouth. You want to quit eating those passed out donuts on the street. You want to be a participant in the community and in life again for yourself and all those other people that you have destroyed and hurt over the years. So even though we have a soup line every morning and feed several hundred, a soup line in our truck that we take out in the streets of Denver every night, we never fail to make it known that there is a different way, that you don't have to do that anymore.
And I thank God for those soup lines, because I'm here to tell you, I've eaten at Salvation Army soup lines in England, in France, and I was a hope to die alcoholic on the streets. I don't even know how I ever got back to the United States. I don't remember getting here. So, on one level it's important, but I hear you got to have tough love, and you got to have people working with the homeless who know what they're doing, who have been there.
That is absolutely.
And I know Salvation Army's been at this since the 1800s.
Yeah. I have a personal saying and a personal philosophy myself. I don't care whether a man is drunk laying in the street. If he's hungry, I'm going to feed him. If he's cold, I'm going to give him shelter. I have a saying: everybody has a right to live.
It's true. 457-9951 is the talk number here on Addiction Free Radio. 457-9951. When we come back from this break, we're going to talk a little bit more with Pete, James, and David. Look, you got 7 minutes to get some calls in here. We have a line open. Give us a call. We'll be back right after this break.
Addiction Free Radio. Jann will be back in just a moment. Addiction Free Radio is the only program on the globe that we know of broadcasting information about addiction. Take that important first step for your own well-being and participate in tonight's show. It's absolutely free. Jann will be back with the phone number in just a moment.
Does someone you know or someone you love have a drug or alcohol problem? Bowling Green of Colorado can help.
Alcoholism affects more than just the person who has the disease. It affects the whole family. There's confusion and anger, misunderstandings and hurt. Often the family has stopped communicating. The closeness that once existed has disappeared. We understand. That's why we provide treatment for everyone close to the alcoholic. Husbands, wives, children, mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, everyone joins together for treatment. And the results are wonderful. Families learn to trust again. Soon they're working together, helping each other. There's lots of hugging, even laughter. And it all starts with love.
You don't have to want help to get help. call Bowling Green of Colorado. 333-5540. 333-5540.
The hustle and sounds of the city pounding in my brain while another day
We're back here on Addiction Free Radio. My guests, Pete, James, and David from Step 13. We've got Roy Chappelle on the phone. He's a phone guest tonight. He is the program director over at Salvation Army, Safe House, and the Blake Street shelter down there. The talk number is 457-9951 if you want to get in. We've got a couple minutes left here. So I'm going to go right to you, Dave. You had some comments that you wanted to make.
Yeah, well, I'd like to say, it might have sounded like Bob had kind of a callous attitude or anything. Well, let me tell you, that's completely opposite. Bob really cares about everybody, especially the guys down at Step 13. The thing is he's seen it firsthand what happens. These guys go to Samaritan Shelter. They get their gloves, their hats, their sleeping bags given to them, and they're down at Step 13 5 minutes later selling them to get that cheap jug of wine, like he was saying. And, he's had guys come in and say, well, yeah, I really want to work, and I really want to straighten up. They sleep in late, they go out, they go to hit the food lines, and they just don't try.
Let's go to the phones. We're going to go to Richard from Boulder. You're on Addiction Free Radio. Hi.
Hi. I was just wanting to mention my father worked with the Salvation Army on Blake Street for a while. And I think the Salvation Army is doing a real good job with helping the homeless.
Thank you.
Well, that's good. Thanks for your call. And how old are you, Richard?
I'm 16.
You're 16.
Yeah.
And you live in Boulder?
And we're going to be, tomorrow we're going to be going up to Boulder and starting a new program. Well, not a new program, but for the homeless that's sick right now and that's on the street, we're going to bring them in and give them food,
Well, no, where do you work? Do you work with your dad? Or?
Yeah, my father's a soldier with the Salvation Army.
He is?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're going to be going out there with the Salvation Army and serving food on the canteen and stuff.
Is this Richard Gelski speaking?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, good call, Richard. Thank you very much. We got 4 minutes left here on Addiction Free Radio. We've got one line open, 457-9951, if you have any more questions. So, we were talking here in between, and I might as well kick this right over to James. You haven't said a whole lot. James, though, you're black, right?
Yes, I am.
And well, people can't see that because we're on
obviously
radio
on
here.
radio.
But I wonder, are there a lot of black guys down on the street, or?
Oh, unfortunately there are, and I guess sociologically, blacks have always been on the street in one facet or another, especially like in any downtown. I guess any downtown urban area, there's always a lot of blacks that practice their diseases of alcoholism and drug abuse. Now, crack being the drug of choice now, those people that are into crack now will eventually all be on the streets because they've taken drugs as the priority over their lives as opposed to being normal human beings.
A little faster.
Yeah, it's a lot faster, but like I said, it's back to cause and effect. The cause will have the same effect. They'll end up homeless because they're going to choose crack instead of leading a normal life.
Boy, I'll tell you, drugs put me on the street so quick it'd make your head spin.
Jan?
Yes.
May I say, I'm also the recruiting sergeant for the Red Shield Corps over in Northeast Denver. I've worked with Leon Kelly over there for years, and we've made a big impact on that community over there, educating the young folks and a lot of the gang members we've brought in over there because we cared enough to go out and to go out among them.
Yeah.
Let them know once again that there is a better way. As you know, Leon's gone on to other things now. He no longer works for us, but he's working right out here in Aurora with them now and making great strides.
He's been on this program, and we're going to have him on here again real soon.
Good.
We'll do another program real soon on gangs.
He's a good one.
However, tonight we're talking about cold and drinking on the street. Okay, for people that are listening, and I think I'll just run this by everybody that's listening. And Pete, I'll start with you. What do you have to say with your average citizen that's out there? What should he do, or what's the truth about the guy who's an alcoholic, who's on the street and it's cold out, yet he's out there drinking? I mean, I don't even know how to put this question. What the heck can your average citizen do? What should they feel? What should they be thinking? What's the truth?
Well, the truth is, to me, I was there because I wanted to be there. That was the place of my choice. I could have probably saved the money that I got through working and rented a room, but no, I just soon go out and get drunk and pass out in the boxcar or something, but that was, as they said, my own personal choice. But I think if anyone actually and basically wants to see what it's really like, just take a Saturday afternoon, not tonight, just take a Saturday afternoon during the summer. Ride down Larimer Street. You'll get the best idea in the world of what's going on.
James,
That's right.
any closing statements here? You wind
Well,
it down.
I would think that I hope this program is taking a step in educating people to the reality of people choosing alcoholism over their own personal comfort, and why alcoholism is controlling people's lifestyles. They don't have any free choice because they've already taken the wrong choice in a really negative course.
David? Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt you there. David, how about a closing statement? And would you give the phone number for Step 13? Maybe if some people are interested in finding out more about Step 13 or they want to hire some people or whatever.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. The phone number for Step 13 is 298-7837. And we'll be happy to hear from you. My closing statements about alcoholism is, Roy, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Do you know the viaduct right at the end of your alley there by Blake Street Shelter?
I go under there every night,
Yeah,
yes.
those guys still have that big bonfire out there?
Every night.
Every night.
Seen
See?
it.
And they will stay
Never
out
failed
there.
to invite them to the shelter.
Are they out there tonight?
They're out
Sure
there
they are.
tonight. And the shelter is not more than 50 feet away.
That
and
is
they're
correct.
Stay out there all night by that fire and drink. What
That's-
can you do?
If I may make just one closing, Jen.
Yep, we got to go too. Go ahead, make it real quick.
My phone number is 296-2456 at Safe Harbor. I would invite anyone in the community that's listening to come on down any morning around 9 o'clock and help me feed those 300 people and see what alcohol has done to so many, or to go out with me on the soup truck at night when we feed the people on the streets and see the abject misery that they're into. If somebody cares, if somebody takes the message to them that there is a better way, to just get involved, just show up and say there's a better way.
Roy, I want to thank you for being on the program.
It
with
is
us.
our pleasure.
And Pete and James and David from Step 13, thanks guys for being here.
You're very welcome.
On a very cold night. On Monday night, we're going to talk about, we'll have a woman on who was in the military. We're going to talk about drinking in the military and the amount of alcoholism that exists in the military here on Addiction Free Radio. 9 o'clock, Monday night. This is Jann Scott saying good night and may the Lord bless you.
And God bless you, Jan.
You've been listening to Addiction Free Radio with your host, Jann Scott. Jann invites you to join him every night at 7 on most of these same stations. If you would like a cassette copy of tonight's show, send $3 check or money order in American currency to Jann Scott, Addiction Free Radio, Post Office Box 545, Lyons, Colorado, 80540, USA. That's Box 545, Lyons, Colorado, 80540, USA. Jann also welcomes any ideas or suggestions you might have. If you know someone who needs this radio show, even though they don't know they need it, tune in with them any night at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, right here on the Addiction Free Radio Network.
KJIM now concludes another broadcast day. KJIM is owned and operated by Sudbrink Broadcasting. We invite you to join us again tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock with the Spirit of 76, KJIM, Thornton, Denver.